We are Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes, here to preview the Las Vegas Bowl between Oregon State and the team formerly known as the Florida Gators. Florida almost unrecognizable in spots in this bowl game, given the NFL draft declarations, the transfers, all sorts of things. Florida has really been hit hard on both sides of the ball, and particularly on the offensive side of the ball, where Anthony Richardson, Florida's versatile quarterback, is declared for the draft, Blake.
Yep. Good luck. If you're trying to figure out how any of these bowl games are going to play out, especially when you have a team like Florida, like you said, it's got so many different guys who aren't going to be playing. And like we talked about before, that's the challenge of, previewing bowl games, period. Forget making a prediction or, as we always say, not professional bettors. But I couldn't imagine having great confidence in one way or the other here in terms of what you're going to see. But I think maybe you do have a little confidence in terms of what you're not going to see for Florida, and that's a lot of the guys who have made a big impact for that team this season. So, yeah, seems like a bit of a stacked against you if you're the Gators heading into this one against an Oregon State team that, it's not a bad team. We're talking about a top 15 team in terms of the polls. Went 9-3 this year. So, yeah, this seems like, based on all the guys who are not going to be playing for Florida, seems like a bit of an uphill climb for Billy Napier's team.
Yeah, to be fair, Oregon State does have a couple of guys out too. Backup quarterback Chance Nolan's hit the portal, and a backup tight end or a tight end too who caught 11 balls is also declaring for the draft. I think he was hurt anyway. Before we talk more about this matchup, a shout out to our sponsor, Stakes. You can predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can submit their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes. Have the best predictions captured in the moment. Head to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Okay, Blake, when Florida has got the ball, boy, good luck to the Gators, because it's going to be a new quarterback. It'll either be Jack Miller III, who's got a thumb injury, or Kyle Engel. One of those kids is going to be making their first college start. Of course, Jalen Kitna, Florida's normal backup, was arrested in just an ugly situation. You can Google that. We won't get into that here. Florida has also lost. Let me run this down quickly. It's what? Well, Richardson was its third leading rusher. Naquan Wright has hit the transfer portal. He was Florida's fourth leading rusher. Lorenzo Lingard, Florida's sixth leading rusher. That does leave the Gators with Montrell Johnson Jr. and Trevor Etienne, who are good backs. The Gators averaged this year, 6.2 yards per rush play, and Oregon State gives up 5.4. So Oregon State is a little bit vulnerable to the pass, which is where Florida, I'm sure, is going to try to attack. But the Gators also without left guard Osiris Torrance. I think he's the left guard. He's one of their guards. In any case, he's an All-American player. And so given Florida's iffiness with the passing game and the fact that its best offensive lineman is out, I would think Oregon State is just going to dare Florida to try to run, and we'll see what happens from there. Now, passing game, Oregon State's pass defense has been fantastic. Oregon State's got 12 picks and allowing 5.7 per pass play. So it'll be the Gators are going to try to run the ball, I would presume, which is where Oregon State's had some issues, and it'll be, can the Gators get it done on that side of the ball, Blake?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think you have to dare Florida to run the ball. I think that
Right.
That's what they want to do anyways. And I think that it's, you take out one element of that with Richardson, but we talked about the other two guys and the success they've had this season. And I mean, I can't imagine you would try to do anything else other than lean on two guys like that help get you, to this point. And I think that, again, when you take Richardson out of the equation, you're taking one guy out of there that could, break off for 100 yards, but still having those two. And let me just say this, still having those two as we record this, because we're going to say that in every bowl preview we do. We're recording this, I think, 9 days before the game is played. So you just never know who's going to play and who's not. So please track that down before you go full into saying, well, you guys didn't say this or that, because we probably don't know at this point as we're recording. But I think Florida trying to run the ball will be the big focus here. And like you said, not having your starting quarterback, that's going to change some things you do offensively, and probably trying to keep it simple will be the best thing. I don't think trying to get too creative will maybe work out in that regard here against, like we said, a pretty quality Oregon State team, and certainly have not been bad on the defensive side. I think only allowing 21 points a game this season.
Before we talk about the other side of the ball, we've got a new partner. It's BROTHROW. It's BROTHROW. You can see that on our ticker. It allows you to bet in all 50 states. Betting $11 to win 10 stinks. You don't have to do that at BROTHROW. It is the only sports betting platform that doesn't take a cut of every bet. You don't have to deposit money into a BROTHROW account. No deposits, no minimum bets, no need to connect your bank account. Bettors pay each other directly. It's a hassle-free sign-up process that gets you in the action in seconds. Go to brothrow.com/SE14. Sign up. We'll approve you, get you in our group, get on the action. A fun new partnership that we're excited about. I think you will be too. Okay, Florida's defense has not been as ravaged by the portal and the draft as the offense has. However, defensive tackle Gervon Dexter is gone. He's declared for the draft. Linebacker Brenton Cox, who's had a very productive career, is gone. He's been kicked off the team, although that happened a few weeks ago, so Florida's had some time to adjust. Oregon to averaging 32.2 points a game, or 32.4. Florida giving up 28.8. Oregon State averaging 5.2 yards per rushing play. Gators giving up 5.0. Oregon State averaging 7.5 yards a pass play. Florida giving up 7. I guess the bright spot here for Florida is that a lot of that secondary, which has got some talented players, is still intact. Oregon State has had a pretty balanced offense this year. Ben Gulbranson, their quarterback, is just okay. They'll run the ball with a multifaceted running attack. And again, rushing is what has given the Gators problems most of the year.
Yeah, I think that's like we said, this is not a vintage Florida defense by any means. So if you're, obviously coming into this game and maybe you're an Oregon State fan, haven't watched a lot of Florida this season, it's a defense that has some holes. And I think that when you kind of look at that and head into this matchup, I feel like Oregon State will be able to do some things on the ground, probably to have some success, because again, it seems like that's been the theme we talked about when we talk about Florida matching up against a lot of teams, specifically down the stretch. And so, I think that's probably a big focus for Oregon State in this game. How do we find some yards on the ground? And again, Florida's defense, it's been so up and down. And you just really never know what to expect. The numbers have gotten better at times, maybe than where they were at one point, but still a defense that is far from what I think the coaching staff wants it to be. And as we said throughout the season, it doesn't feel like anything's going to be fixed this season. It'll probably take a little reshuffling of the roster a bit to get there. And I think that should probably open up some success here for Oregon State, a team that, again, think about it. I mean, they're coming off a win against Oregon where they put up 38 points. They've scored some points this season. So I think this is a team that will certainly try to attack Florida in a variety of ways on that defense.
All right, some miscellaneous stuff before we wrap up. Florida is one of the least penalized teams in the SEC, giving up 47 penalty yards per game, although that waned a little bit down the stretch as Florida got a little more undisciplined. Oregon State, 55 penalty yards a game. Florida's special teams ranking, according to FEI, is 39. Oregon State is 14. So the Beavers seem to have the edge on special teams. Strength of schedule, this is according to ESPN's FPI. You can temper some of these numbers a little bit by the fact that Florida played the number 5 strength of schedule in the country. Oregon, according to ESPN, played the 50th best. Frankly, I think that's a little harsh in looking over Oregon's schedule. Not only did it play some good teams in the Pac-12, it also played Fresno State, Boise State. But I digress. And rating our Southeastern 14 composite ranking, averaging 4 computers that we love, Florida 21st and Oregon State 27th. However, this just isn't the same Florida team as we discussed for reasons we've already expressed. The line on this one, Oregon State, a 10.5-point favorite with an over-under 52.5, meaning a final score of Oregon State 32, Florida 21. And the predictions frankly, I think Florida could have trouble getting to 21. And the Gators have been vulnerable to the run, which is, we have said, Oregon State can run the ball pretty well.
Yeah, it feels like there's some matchup advantages for Oregon State here. And like you mentioned, I mean, it's the nature of bowl games at this point with transfers and guys leaving for the draft. It's just a different team for Florida. Yes, I know there's a lot of guys that are still there, and there will still be, some positions that are anchored by the same guys have been anchored by the entire season. But obviously, not having Anthony Richardson, I think, just makes this a much harder game to kind of prepare. When you're trying to figure out how this could play out here.
Not to mention no backup. Yeah,
right, and it's just kind of it's a tough scenario, and you just don't, because we haven't seen this right for Florida, and so we don't really know what this is going to look like. So I think that makes it hard to pick the Gators here. If you are a professional bettor, we are not. Oregon State is 10-2 against the spread this season, so via covers. So good teams win, great teams cover, and Oregon State, a top 15 team against a Florida team that is going to have some different personnel on the field. I think Oregon State's probably the lean here in terms of taking care of business.
Yeah, Jonathan Smith has done a very underrated job. Oregon State flew under everybody's radar pretty much all year until really October, November. Oregon State lost, what was it, on October the 1st, 42-16 to Utah State. From there, it won, 6 of its last 7 games. Only loss was to Washington, which went 10-2. That was a 24-21 win. Florida's been very up and down. I would be shocked if Florida wins this game. Feels to me like Oregon State probably covers 2. And the over-under, based on what the teams have done, you would expect that to be closer to 57. It's 52.5. But again, this just isn't the same Florida offense. And I think the Gators are going to have problems getting to that predicted 21-point total, Blake.
They do it, but they will try to run their way there, and they're still talented enough, I think, to do that. But
yeah,
again, it's just I don't know what to expect without Anthony Richardson and what the offense is going to look like. So,
yeah, and to be clear, Montrell Johnson Jr. and Trevor Etienne are 2 really good backs. It's just when you can sit there and say we're going to just play the run every snap, which I'm expecting what Oregon State will do, and make you beat us through the air. Just the gaps to run through, especially without Torrance, are just going to be fewer and further between. All right, we are going to preview every single SEC football game. By the way, that's Osiris Torrance. I may have botched the name there. But in any case, we will not botch the rest of our previews. We hope you'll watch those. You can check those out by subscribing to our channel at Southeastern 14. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes.